Okay, so let's talk about the Dodgers and the bombshell. Can we even call it that, actually? It's not a huge surprise that the Dodgers landed Tarik Skubal. It really isn't. But unknowingly, maybe unwittingly, or maybe intentionally, the Dodgers have now created an even greater sense of urgency with the ownership group. Again, it's funny to say because the Dodgers are part of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is made up of the owners of the 30 teams. Okay, so that's the brain trust. I call it in an oligarchy. As much as we look at Rob Manfred, or you may look at Roger Goodell in football, Gary Bettman in hockey, you look at them as the dudes that are running the show. Yes, they are, but essentially they are CEOs of the sport, meaning they're not the owners. The commissioners are just the guys and gals. If you're talking about the WNBA, not Val Ackerman, sorry. It's not run very well, right? The WNBA. And so I hesitate to include her in this process. Kathy Engelbert, Val Ackerman, my apologies, is the commissioner of Big East, but I love her. She's awesome. So the commissioners are the CEOs, and they are standing in the line of fire, and they are carrying out the bidding and the wishes of the owners. So owners have to vote on everything. Owners have to agree on everything. And really what Rob Manfred is, he's tasked with carrying out the plans, the purposes, the ideas, the negotiating. He's part of it, but he's supposed to implement what the owners want. Okay, so you can blame Rob Manfred if there happens to be a work stoppage, but it's really not on him. It's not on the commissioner. He would lose his job if he wasn't carrying out the plans that the owners have. Okay, so that's one thing. The owners of the various teams make up Major League Baseball. On the other side, you've got the union and the Players Association. And baseball's union is the most powerful. The reason there is no salary cap yet in baseball, the reason that we've had luxury tax threshold 1 and luxury tax threshold 2, and the reason that they haven't been able to implement a hard ceiling yet the way the other sports have is because the Players Association doesn't want it. Plain and simple. The Players Association pushes back on this, does not want a salary cap. I mean, the answer is obvious. Why? Why? Well, because we want our ace pitchers to sign contracts for 14 years and $380 million, right? And a salary cap would not allow teams to do that and would limit the amount of money that players can sign up for in guaranteed contracts. That's the other thing. In Major League Baseball, the contracts still, because of the union, because of the Players Association, because of how much power it wields, all these contracts, these gaudy contracts that are full of monopoly money, they are guaranteed, fully guaranteed, unless there's a clause in a contract. Let's just say an athlete goes out there and breaks some rules or gambles. There's a great example right now because gambling is a major pitfall and temptation for professional athletes and college athletes too. So if a player goes out there and violates the behavioral clause or the terms of his contract and he gets himself suspended or in trouble, well, then yes, that's a suspension without pay. But for the most part, when a contract is signed on the dotted line and it's $350 million, that money is fully guaranteed. So of course the Players Association, the union, doesn't want a salary cap because that will bring these contracts maybe back to earth. But it means then teams only have a certain amount of money to spend. Yes, there will be exceptions. The NBA has a bunch of mid-level exceptions and supermax contract exceptions. And so there are exceptions, and there probably will be. But ultimately, it will limit the amount of money that agents can get for their players, like a Scott Boras, that teams can spend even on the most talented and the most impactful players that are on the market. So that's one reason why we're getting a conflict here. That's one reason why you've got the two sides that are, I got to put my hands up above the, maybe I'll have to zoom out with the camera, but you can't see me when I was gesturing down here below the microphone. You can't see that. So yeah, that's why they're butting heads, is because the Players association is anti-salary cap, anti-ceiling to the thing, while the owners recognize there's got to be a drastic change. And here along come the Dodgers playing by the rules. You can't get mad at the you can get mad at the Dodgers, but it would be irrational and illogical and mostly misplaced aggression. It's not the Dodgers' fault that the system allows them. I'm not yelling. I'm passionate about this. It's not the Dodgers' fault that the system allows them to bring in the best and the brightest, including Tarik Skubal. It's the system that allows, wow, he's already in Dodgers blue. Yeah, that's a little stunning, isn't it? Especially for Tigers fans. The fact is he's already there with LA, and he is expected to make his debut on Tuesday. How about this? Against the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field. So welcome to the National League and welcome to the Dodgers, Tarik Skubal. And so it's not, again, the Dodgers' fault that the system allows them to go out and pursue with whatever resources they would like to use the best of the best. And sure, you can say they're trying to buy their way to another World Series, but until the system changes, aren't they doing what every team wishes it can do? Right? How many Pirates fans out there wish that their team, raise your hand, wish that your team could spend as much money, or would? I guess it's not the could so much, it's the would. Not every owner wants to spend this kind of money. Not every owner wants to sink its resources into bringing the best of the brightest. And if you follow the Dodgers, you know that their system is one in which they spend money to make money, but also their system is one in which they do a ton of deferred contracts. The number roughly, don't quote me on this, it's all monopoly money, but the number roughly is they now owe in deferred money, meaning it'll be paid at some point down the road. Shohei Ohtani's contract is a great example of this because was it 75% of his contract is deferred and is paid out later down the road, not the day when he signed. A lot of NFL contracts, what guys are looking for is guaranteed money due on signing. Well, in Major League Baseball, there are stipulations that allow these guys to get the deferred portion of the contract later down the road. And so $1.1 billion, that's billion, that's the B word, 1.1. Why do I make such funny faces? Can I do a show like this? I can't look at myself. I know that I'll be put off by my crazy faces in my eyes. This is why I always wanted to do radio, because I don't think I come across very well on camera. However, whatevs, it's a camera. I'll learn to ignore it. So what was I saying? My brain is like a plate of spaghetti. I have one thought and I'll pull it off the plate or twirl it on a fork. And I'm intending to pull one thought or a series of thoughts off the plate. And instead, all these other thoughts come jumbling out and off the plate, out of my mouth. So I get distracted by my Italian talking my hands. $1.1 billion is what the Dodgers reportedly owe in deferred contracts. And will they try to sign Skubal to a long-term deal? Of course they will. But the idea is the Dodgers are playing within the rules. I admire them. I feel like you have to respect them as a sports fan if you're paying attention to what's going on. You could accuse them of attempting to buy another World Series, but do you know that 2 years ago when they beat the Yankees, they used a spot start in the middle of the World Series? They've been decimated over the past several years by injuries to their starting rotation, and they have a couple of injuries now. Let's see, it's Tyler Glass now, and it's Blake Snell. So, and Shohei Ohtani, who Andrew Friedman did indicate that if he was a betting guy, which kind of feel like he shouldn't be saying that either, the president of baseball operations, that if he had to place a bet on it, he would say, yes, Shohei Ohtani will return to the rotation. They're being cautious. They want to be careful, of course, because he's their cash cow. And not only that, he's their best all-around player and MVP. And so they've got injuries, 3 guys in their starting rotation that are right now working their way back from injury, which means Skubal fills an immediate need. But long term, he's also the best pitcher in baseball who can get you closer to your goal. Now, Friedman's not going to jump in and say, hey, we just won the World Series. He's got more experience. He's got more wisdom. He's more tempered. But it was interesting to hear him say, and he did speak to the media before their last game against the Red Sox, but he did speak to the media about why they decided that Skubal himself was their only target. He did say that we were aggressive about one player and one player only.
Whenever there's a star level player that is available that can really shift championship odds, those are the moments that we'll be more aggressive. And we've tried in other instances and not lined up, and others where we have. But I think being by the backboard and doing everything we can to put ourselves in the best position with the core we have right now, with the way they go about their preparation to do everything they can to win a championship, when we can add to that and enhance our chances, we're going to be aggressive to do so.
So Andrew Friedman, pretty tempered in his comments, not in your face, suckers. We got Tarik Skubal. That's not Andrew Friedman. And he went on to say that there's no guarantee. We don't know what will happen in September. We don't know what our rotation or what our roster looks like by the time we get to the end of the regular season. But why shouldn't they put themselves in the best position to win? People who are begrudging the Dodgers or angry, and I got a lot of comments about this on Saturday night when I tweeted about this massive landslide that always seems to end up in LA, right? The fact that they are aggressive and that they continue to pursue these types of deals is something to be lauded if you're a Dodgers fan or if you appreciate good business. Okay? They invest money to make money, and it's working. But they also missed out on a couple World Series. It wasn't until the end of Clayton Kershaw's career that they were able to capitalize on the moves that they made. They hadn't won a World Series since 1988. It's not like they're winning every single year, but they also understand how to work the system. I don't mean game the system. I mean use the system to their advantage. Contrast the Dodgers with the Mets. The Mets go out and spend a ton of money every offseason, but they don't have the leadership yet. They don't have the culture that the Dodgers do. They don't yet have the winning formula. I know that leaves their fans in angst. If they can figure those things out, a common foundation upon which they can build, spending the money wisely on the right pieces, they will get there because they have the resources. The Dodgers fought through this for a few years, and they're still dealing with injuries to some of their most critical positions. However, they understand long-term how to build the foundation, the culture. Athletes who go to the Dodgers, different managers, or even front office execs who work with the Dodgers, they will tell you this is a great place to work. We feel supported. We feel like we're allowed to do what we do best, and management is behind us. Again, athletes will tell you it's a great organization to play for. So it's a well-oiled machine, right? The more you win, the more attention you get. The more you win, the more money you make. The more you win, the more that athletes want to be part of what you're doing because they want to win too. And the more you win, the more you can invest in your future. So the Dodgers are in that sweet spot, right? This is their wheelhouse. It's the system that allows them. You can be angry about it, but I feel as though that's mostly jealousy, right? So when we talk about hate in sports, I hate this team, I hate that athlete, it's primarily jealousy. And when it comes to a team like the Dodgers, it's jealousy because I wish my team was doing that, or I wish my team was as successful at what the Dodgers are doing, but we're just not there yet. And I understand that there are fans of teams out there that aren't willing to spend the money, and that's so frustrating. Tampa Bay, now they've had a couple of World Series appearances, right? They've gotten close, but Tampa Bay, their stadium situation is a disaster, right? So not only have they had the damage from the recent storm, but not willing to build a park or a stadium that will be a fun fan experience, or that will be one that becomes a destination for free agent athletes. Seems like they have an incredible farm system with their pitching, but all those pitchers generally tend to end up somewhere else. Pirates, same thing. You talk to Pirates fans, and gosh, PNC Park is my favorite in the majors. I love PNC Park. It's an incredible experience to go to a game in Pittsburgh. The issue is that every time they have a great player, most recently Paul Skeens, he's dynamic. He puts butts in the seats. He gives them a chance to win. Almost every time they have a great player, he ends up pitching and or winning somewhere else. And it's frustrating. But you can't be upset at the Dodgers for doing what they can under the system to become a winning team and to try to put themselves in the best position to win. But as I say, this is kind of in a weird, ironic way, yet another reason why owners are dug in. So the Dodgers make a huge splash. They get the best pitcher in baseball. But this is even more evidence of why and how the owners need to approach this upcoming deadline in negotiations. So December 1st is the critical day. Could there be a work stoppage? Absolutely. Is it depressing? Yes. Have we been around this mountain before? Sure. But maybe, just maybe, now is the time for baseball owners to dig in and to use this leverage and to say, hey, we've got the evidence that a salary cap is needed. So Skubal is now with the Dodgers. You're going to hear his emotional reaction to getting traded out of Detroit, where he said he wanted to stay, but the Tigers end up pulling the trigger on this trade. And also, how likely is it that we will miss games at the start of the 2027 season? At least we'll get the World Series.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited. They got a good group. You hear everything across the way. I'm excited, though.
He's excited. He said all the right things, but obviously when your whole life just gets ripped up by the roots and it's time to start over, it's a challenge. Have you ever changed a job? Of course you had. Or maybe you've gone to a new school and everything around you is new and different, but also you didn't really want to leave where you were. It wasn't maybe your choice. Now, good for him that his pitching will lead the way. And this is what happens with athletes, and really I think with humans too. When everything else around you is blowing up, you find that place where you're most comfortable. You find what works for you, what you do well, you focus on that and you get through it. And that's kind of the case with me right now. I know how to talk. I've spent 30 years talking about sports. So everything else around me is new. For heaven's sakes, there are photos behind me. Oh, one that I love. Oh, wait, right there, of me swimming with dolphins. My husband did that as a surprise on our honeymoon, and it had to be one of the best days of my life. In fact, if you look at the photo, I don't know if I can zoom in. We don't need to zoom in, but maybe I'll bring the photo up here in a second. But if you look at that photo, the smile on my face, I like to tease my husband that I was smiling bigger and had a huger smile on my face than I did the day we got married. Sorry, babe. I love dolphins and I love swimming with dolphins. And actually, that kind of works out. Okay. Anyway, my point was, as I'm getting used to everything new and the fact that you're watching me and I'm not really sure what to do, I look at the camera, can I look at my notes? What I'm falling back on is I've done this for 30 years. I've talked professionally 30 years. I can talk about sports. Who cares if there's a camera? Well, in the case of Skubal, what he's going to do now is pitch. And yes, he's got to move and family's got to move. And maybe it's going to be tough for them to all start if it's new schools or new jobs or a new neighborhood, all of that. Moving is not easy. Even if you are a professional athlete and someone is doing it for you, it's still not easy to adjust. Where do I get coffee? Where do I go to the grocery store? Does my air condition work? Right? Like, these are all changes. And we just moved going back to early November of last year. Sometimes there's culture shock. Okay. So I'm a Northeastern girl and I love the cold. I really, really do. I grew up in New Hampshire. I love snow. I would take winter over summer any day. As much as I love the beach and I love being on the water, I love boats, I love the snow and the cold better, and it's exhilarating for me. Sometimes it can be about culture shock. Detroit to LA is a huge change. So he's a human being in addition to being a pitcher. And yeah, he's going to have to adjust. But the cool thing is, he's going to the two-time defending World Series champion, kind of like he's that two-time defending AL Cy Young Award winner. He can now try to win a Cy Young in the other league. And what he can fall back on is baseball is still baseball. And I know how to pitch. And he will make his debut on Tuesday against the Cubs. Wow. According to the Dodgers. It's weird. I feel like I need to reset and tell you what you're watching, except you can tell what you're watching because it's in the corner there. Yep. If you found it, you're on the YouTube channel, so I don't need to tell you that either. At the top of the hour, we're going to share some of your comments because Zach tells me that there are a bunch of comments coming in. My phone is actually blowing up too. I don't know if mom is currently watching, but I do know that she wasn't watching at the start of the show because she sent me a text that said, "Are you all set for the top of the hour?" Meaning it's okay. Time zones are time zones. Maybe I didn't clarify to her that it was 11 o'clock Eastern time that we started. But hi, Mom. So we do have some comments, and Zach has indicated that we'll share those after the top of the hour. But thinking about Skubal and starting all over and what this means for the Dodgers, there are more questions than answers. We don't know yet how it's going to work out. It's not possible to buy a World Series trophy. It's not. You still have to go out there and perform. But inadvertently, or maybe intentionally, actually, I shouldn't speak for the Dodgers. The ironic part is that by landing yet another superstar, by outbidding, quote unquote, the rest of Major League Baseball, and as a side note, the Dodgers didn't give up much. It's not like they gave up Shohei Ohtani to bring in Tarik Skubal. They actually didn't give up more than what most other teams out there probably could have mustered. And that's kind of the part that is throwing other teams for a loop. Like, hey, maybe we should have tried that because the price tag for Skubal really wasn't that high. But the Dodgers were aggressive and they pursued it and they decided that they were going to go aggressively. That's what Andrew Friedman said, is there was one player about which we were aggressive this deadline, and that was Skubal. And so maybe other teams should have tried it, but were intimidated by the big bad Dodgers. But looking ahead to December 1st, when we have this deadline for the two sides, owners and players association, to come to some agreement about negotiations. And if you don't really know what that means, their labor deal is expiring. They've got this renegotiation window. But on December 1st, if they have not come at least tentatively to an agreement, we could feel some deja vu where there's a work stoppage. So that means no more business deals, right? No more player signings, no more trades for a time being. That's all put on hold, put on ice, if you will. There are no more workouts with players at facilities. Okay, so their players and facilities have to be separate. Players and teams have to be separate. If the work stoppage would continue, and it would likely be a lockout, the players are not going to go on strike. It would be the owners locking out the athletes because they're not happy with negotiations or feel like they haven't found common ground. They'll lock them out. That means if we get to it, February, no more spring training, or at least no spring training for now. And you remember a few years ago, we had the same situation with baseball where the prolonged work stoppage or the prolonged impasse lasted until the end of March, and they finally got a deal done. But we did get past the first day of the Major League Baseball season. So we missed opening day. They ended up not missing any of the 162 games on the schedule. Do you guys remember the 7-inning doubleheaders? Well, that was a product of the work stoppage lasting through spring training and on into that first week of what was supposed to be the regular season. And so that's a possibility. But the reason that the owners are more dug in than ever about a salary cap is because of what keeps happening. It's not just the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mets, sometimes the Cubs. There are only a handful of teams that can really go all in and spend the most money. And so in order to level the playing field, in order to make sure that if the other owners want to, the rest of the owners can also participate, be all in on free agents. They can try to bring in some of the best players, and we have a divvying up of resources, right? So it's not a few teams have all the best players in baseball. It's a way to level the playing field. Owners are desperate to see a salary cap or some type of system that allows all teams to go after the next Tarik Skubal, that type of thing.